Welcome everyone. It's time for the final round of the Prague Masters 2026. We have David Anton Guijarro coming into the game. He is one of Spain's top players and he is having a pretty good event here. He managed to beat Jordan Van Forest. He also managed to beat Arvind Chidambaram in this tournament and is currently on 3.5 out of 8. A win in the last round for him would give him an excellent finish. Facing him is the world champion Gukesh, and you can see his trainer Gayevsky in the background. Gukesh entering in. He has had perhaps one of the toughest tournaments till date. He is on 2.5 points out of 8, and he was asked to sign here, and then Gukesh maybe wanted to do it after the game, but then he saw that there was still some time left, so did it before the game itself. As he enters in,
Thank you very much.
Gukesh has had 5 draws and 3 losses here. He is looking for his first win. A win in the last round will definitely give him some consolation in this tournament. The games have begun. Pawn to d4 by Anton David Guijarro, and Gukesh brings his knight out to f6, and white plays pawn to c4. Gukesh always plays his pawn to e6 here, and he does that in this game as well. And now knight comes out to f3. You want to maybe play pawn to d5, the queen's gambit declined. That's what Gukesh does. This has become as popular as the Ruy Lopez. We see so many games happening with the queen's gambit declined, and Anton plays knight to c3. And Gukesh brings his knight out to d7. And takes on d5. Pawn takes d5, and Anton plays his queen to c2. Just taking control of the e4 square, Gukesh goes bishop b4 in the style of the Ragozin defense in Queen's Gambit decline, pinning the knight here, and bishop comes out to f4. You can always castle here, but Gukesh wants to play a sharp line. He goes knight e4, building up the pressure on the c3 knight. You have pawn to e3 played, and now Gukesh goes pawn to g5. He's going out for the attack. The bishop is attacked here on f4, and he comes up ahead with bishop e5, attacking the rook. If you take here, I take back with the knight with a nice position, and he goes rook g8. h3 played here by David Anton, still in his preparation. By the way, one must remember castles was played by Arvind against Vincent in Vaikanze, and now knight takes bishop. Gukesh takes here. We're already in new territory here. Knight takes. Knight takes knight, and queen comes up to e7. Maybe this is all part of Gukesh's prep, and he knows about it. Gives a check, and notice how c6 does not work because of knight takes, pawn takes, check, and you lose the rook. So that's the reason why king f8, and now bishop comes back to d3, attacking the knight in the center. You push f6. Well, the knight has to move. Knight can go back to f3, but he first takes on e4. And the point is, if you take here, I have bishop d5 hitting the rook. So d takes e4 taken. And now you need to save the knight. So knight c4 makes a lot of sense. The knight is well placed here. And while black has the bishop pair, white has a very good structure and also the ability to castle. Black has lost that right. Knight comes back to d2. Now the e4 pawn is very weak. f5, defending it. Maybe you can at some point try for g4 ideas, but first a3, a question to the bishop on b4, and Anton still has 1 hour 28 minutes. The bishop comes back to a5 for Gukesh. And now pawn to f3 played. He wants to break this structure in the center. Gukesh takes, he takes f3. And now knight takes f3 makes a lot of sense. Yes, he takes with the knight, eyeing the e5 square. And king comes up to g7. White's position looks very interesting. He castles short. So David Anton not afraid of Gukesh's pawns, and Gukesh, look at the king run from f8 to h8. The knight jumps into e5. You have to be careful. The king could come under some pressure. There could be checks on g6 and f7. But first he plays c6, making space for the bishop to go back on this diagonal. And now the knight goes to a4. The knight is coming to c5. He brings his rook first into the game. Rook a f8. I love this move because when the knight comes to c5, you can simply drop the bishop, defending the pawn, and the rook is not out of the game. And Anton David Guijarro now thinking about his next move. He goes knight to c5. Bishop c8 makes the most sense, keeping the bishop pair on the board. Gukesh plays it. It's a complex, even position until now. 2 knights versus 2 bishops, but everything to play for. He pushes his pawn to e4, and Gukesh can now push his pawn forward with f4. I don't know if he wants to do that. He does it. Pawn to f4 on the board. These pawns on the king side getting dangerous, move after move. b4 played, hitting the bishop. The bishop can now drop back on c7, attacking the knight on e5. And you have queen to c3. The queen is looking in the direction of the king, and queen comes up to g7. We have rook to a2, very interesting sort of rook lift to switch the rook to the other side. But now Gukesh suddenly starts putting pressure on the d4 pawn. The knight comes back to d3, defending his friend here on e5. And Gukesh goes rook d6, very interesting rook lift. Maybe with the idea of rook h6 and g4. Wow. Anton Guijarro needs to be careful. He plays rook to c2. I wonder what the rook's doing on c2. But okay, it's on a semi-open file. Could be useful. b5 could be in the air. Bishop b6 played. Now first attacking the pawn on d4. Maybe you have to go knight c5. Yes, he puts his knight on c5. And he goes bishop d8. He wants to maybe put the bishop on the f6 square. d2 played. And yes, bishop f6. And there could be potential ideas of taking on d4 and then taking on e5. He goes back, knight to f3. And now the bishop comes to e7 because the threat was e5 to win a piece. Knight e5 played here by David Anton. 7 more moves to move 40, and Gukesh goes b6. It does weaken the c6 square, but I think he has some ideas in mind now. Bishop a6, pinning the knight here, so there is no time to take on c6 because of rook c8 and a pin here. So he goes, I think rook fd1 would be the best move. He plays it coming out of the pin. And h5, Gukesh going all out for the attack now. Once again, taking, he goes back to f2. Taking here on c6 was not great because of rook c8. But he goes knight f2, and Gukesh swings his rook over to h6. The attack is building. and time is running low. 6 minutes for David Anton. He has to make 3 more moves. He goes queen b3 and he's threatening a check, a deadly check there. King comes up to h7. And now the queen is entering in. Where but? Oh, he plays queen f7, offering a trade of queens. Should Gukesh take it? Well, he does it because it was kind of forced. And now the attack is kind of gone in the position, but at the same time, after rook f6, black's position still with a lot of potential here. Knight e5. And now rook e6 played. And we reached move 40. So both players will get 30 extra minutes on the clock. And David Anton plays his rook to c1. It's a weak pawn on the c6 square. Gukesh breaks with c5. That's why. Now you have to be very careful as white. He goes knight f3 back. Maybe not the best move. The best idea was knight d7, which is tough to play. But knight f3. And now Gukesh can go g4. Can he find it? It's not so trivial, but not so difficult as well. g4. He plays it. Pawn to g4. A great move. Now the only move, d5, as an intermezzo to attack the rook, but takes, attacks the knight on f3. And where can the knight go now? He pushes his pawn to d5. But now the rook simply swings over to the h6 square. He does it. Rook to h6. And David goes knight to e5. And a very important move now by Gukesh. Pawn to g3. Lovely play by the world champion here. He's playing excellent chess. And I think he's in good shape here in this game. Knight h3. Attacking the pawn on f4. There's also pressure on the c5 pawn. So takes on b4. Okay, threatening b takes a3. So you must take back. Take back, but now bishop takes c5. Bishop takes b4, sorry. Yes, he takes the pawn, attacks the rook, and there's a threat of a check. So rook a2 played. The bishop is attacked, and now comes check. Very nice move, because if rook takes c5, b takes c5, the rook defends the bishop. So you can't take it there. He plays king h1, but now the knight is pinned. And it's time to get the bishop to h3, attacking the knight, and rook takes a7 comes with a check, but he can simply block it with rook g7. And Gukesh has recognized that with his bishop here, his other bishop here, and knight here, and rook here, and the pawns, he's completely winning. So the knight goes back to d3. And now, well, there are a couple of ways to win. One of them is bishop takes knight and then f3 with the idea of g2. The other one is to start with f3. Yes, pawn to f3 played. He takes the bishop on c5. Gukesh takes back. And now, well, this position is lost because of take, check, king g1, f2, and the pawns are too strong. So he takes one of the pawns, but now he's going to lose a piece. Bishop takes h3. And king g1 played. You can feel it from the body language of the players that they know that it's all over. Gukesh is going to score his first win at the Prague Masters. It comes a bit too late, but also the quality of the game just shows that, you know, this tournament could have gone the other way for Gukesh if he would have had a few better moves that he would have played. Rook a4, and well, it's time to resign. Rook d4 may be incoming, yes, and David Anton Guijarro resigns. He finishes with 3.5 points, so does Gukesh. They both end up on the 9th and 10th positions here. The tournament was won by Nodirbek Abdusattorov with 6 points out of 9. A fantastic performance by Noderbek. And Gukesh, well, he'll have time to recover from this one, and lot of learnings. We already have an interview with him that's already published on our channel, which you can check it out. And Gukesh, well, he is ready to just go back, take some rest and unwind for the tournament. And he's just obliging his fans for the final time in this tournament.